2002 Austria. The 2002 Austrian Grand Prix was meant to showcase Ferrari's dominance, but instead it became one of the most infamous examples of team orders in Formula One history. Rubens Barrichello had been leading from the start, driving with confidence and holding off Michael Schumacher, the reigning world champion. He had done everything right, managing his tires, defending his position, and proving that on that day he was the quicker driver. But in the final moments, as the checkered flag approached, a call came from the Ferrari pit wall, instructing Barrichello to let Schumacher through. This was not a suggestion, it was a direct order. Down the final straight, with only meters to go, Rubens slowed dramatically, allowing Schumacher to overtake him right at the finish line. The crowd erupted in boos. Fans waved their arms in anger, unable to believe what they were seeing. Commentators were stunned into silence before voicing their outrage. Ferrari claimed it was for the championship battle, saying Schumacher needed every point, but to millions watching, it felt like a betrayal of the very spirit of racing. On the podium, Schumacher looked visibly uncomfortable and even tried to hand the winner's trophy to Barrichello, a gesture that made the situation even more awkward. Decades later, this race is still mentioned whenever people talk about incidents that felt scripted rather than earned. 2008 Singapore. The 2008 Singapore Grand Prix was historic for many reasons. It was the sport's first night race, and the atmosphere was electric, with the city's skyline glowing and fans lining the track under the floodlights. The race itself, however, became legendary for reasons far beyond the spectacle. Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. was running far back in the field, and his chances of scoring points looked slim. Behind closed doors, a plan was hatched. Piquet was instructed by the team to crash deliberately at a certain corner to trigger a safety car. On lap 14, he spun into the wall at turn 17, bringing out the safety car exactly as planned. His teammate Fernando Alonso, who had pitted earlier, suddenly found himself with a huge advantage. Alonso charged forward and ultimately won the race. At first, nobody suspected anything, but months later, the truth came out and the revelation shocked the motorsport world. Investigations confirmed that the crash had been deliberate, orchestrated to manipulate the outcome. Renault's management was heavily implicated, with team boss Flavio Briatore banned from the sport for years. Even now, Crashgate remains one of the clearest examples of a race being influenced off the track, a moment where sporting integrity was sacrificed for a manufactured result. 2010 Germany. Hockenheim in 2010 provided another painful reminder of how team orders can overshadow pure racing. Felipe Massa, who had suffered a life-threatening crash the year before, was leading the race and heading towards an emotional victory. He had been fast all weekend, pulling away from the field and controlling the pace. Then, over the radio, came a carefully worded message from Ferrari. "Fernando is faster than you. Can you confirm you understand that message?" Every fan watching knew exactly what that meant. Moments later, Massa slowed down on a straight, and Fernando Alonso swept past to take the lead. The cameras caught Massa's body language in the car, and it was clear he was devastated. Fans were furious, social media exploded, commentators condemned the decision, and even rival teams criticized Ferrari for robbing Massa of a deserved win. Ferrari argued that Alonso was in the title fight and needed maximum points, but it felt like a slap in the face to anyone who wanted to see drivers decide the outcome on track. Years later, that radio message is still quoted whenever team orders come under scrutiny. 1998 Belgium. The 1998 Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps was chaotic from start to finish. Heavy rain turned the circuit into a slippery nightmare, leading to a massive pileup on the opening lap that took out nearly half the field. After a long delay, the race resumed, and Michael Schumacher built a commanding lead, slicing through the treacherous conditions with his usual brilliance. But then came the incident that still divides fans. As Schumacher closed in to lap David Coulthard, visibility was poor, spray from the wet track hanging in the air. Coulthard, running slowly, stayed on the racing line longer than expected, and Schumacher plowed into the back of his McLaren at high speed. The collision destroyed Schumacher's car, and he stormed into the McLaren garage after retiring, furious and accusing Coulthard of deliberately brake testing him. Coulthard denied it, explaining that he had tried to move off the line, but simply slowed too much in the poor conditions. Some fans believe it was an honest mistake, while others suspect something more calculated. Over 2 decades later, debates over that rainy afternoon still rage on forums and documentaries, proof that some incidents leave questions that never truly get answered. 2014 Belgium. 16 years later, Spa once again delivered drama, this time within the Mercedes team. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton were locked in a tense championship battle, with emotions running high. Early in the race, Rosberg attempted to overtake Hamilton, but their cars made light contact. It didn't seem major at first, but the contact cut Hamilton's rear tire, forcing him to pit early and dropping him to the back of the field. Hamilton was visibly frustrated on team radio, questioning why Rosberg had taken such a risk. Mercedes initially called it a racing incident, but after internal discussions, rumors leaked that Rosberg had admitted in a meeting that he left his front wing in on purpose to make a point. Hamilton hinted at this in interviews, saying he was surprised a teammate would do such a thing. Fans immediately took sides. Some believed Rosberg's move was deliberate, a calculated play in their rivalry. Others saw it as a simple racing incident. Whatever the truth, that clash intensified their already heated relationship and became one of the defining moments of the 2014 season. 1994 Imola, the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix is one of the darkest weekends in Formula One history. In qualifying, rookie driver Roland Ratzenberger tragically lost his life after a crash. The paddock was already in mourning when the race began, and then came the unthinkable. On lap 7, Ayrton Senna's car went straight on at the high-speed Tamburello corner and hit the wall. Senna, one of the greatest drivers of all time, suffered fatal injuries. An investigation concluded that a steering column failure was the likely cause. However, over the years, alternative theories have emerged. Some believe modifications to the steering column were rushed and unsafe. Others think the car's setup, made to match the speed of the dominant Williams, compromised its stability. There are whispers that not all data from the crash was ever released, fueling speculation that something more was at play. While most agree there was no intent to rig anything, the unanswered questions keep this incident in conversations decades later. It reminds everyone how fragile life is in motorsport and how even in tragedy, doubts and theories can linger. 2005 USA. The 2005 United States Grand Prix is remembered as one of the most embarrassing moments in F1 history. Indianapolis was packed with fans eager to see their heroes race, but behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Michelin discovered during practice that their tires were unsafe on the high-speed banked final corner. They proposed solutions, including adding a chicane or allowing tire changes, but the FIA refused. When the race started, the 14 Michelin-equipped cars pulled into the pits after the formation lap, leaving only 6 cars from Bridgestone-equipped teams to race. The crowd was stunned, many believing it was some kind of joke. As the laps ticked by, frustration grew. Booing echoed around the circuit. Some fans even threw debris onto the track, and commentators were left trying to explain a situation that made no sense to casual viewers. Officially, it was a matter of safety and regulations, but many suspected deeper politics between the FIA, Michelin, and certain teams. For the fans who paid to see a full race, it felt like a betrayal, and for Formula One, it was a day that showed how off-track decisions can completely overshadow the racing. 2008 Belgium. The 2008 Belgian Grand Prix offered one of the most exciting finishes in recent memory. Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Raikkonen fought wheel to wheel in changing weather conditions. In the heat of the battle, Hamilton cut the chicane to avoid contact, then immediately gave the place back to Raikkonen, only to overtake him into the next corner. It was breathtaking, raw racing skill on display. Hamilton crossed the finish line first, but hours later, the stewards handed him a 25-second penalty, dropping him to third and handing victory to Felipe Massa. Fans exploded in outrage. Many argued that Hamilton had followed the rules by giving the position back, and that the penalty was inconsistent with previous rulings. The decision sparked debates about stewarding, consistency, and whether certain drivers or teams were treated differently. Even years later, this race is brought up whenever controversial penalties are discussed, a symbol of how one ruling can change the entire narrative of a race. 2019 Canada. In 2019 at Montreal, Sebastian Vettel drove a brilliant race in his Ferrari, leading from the start and keeping Lewis Hamilton at bay. Then came a critical moment. Vettel went wide at turn 3, bounced across the grass, and rejoined the track just ahead of Hamilton. The stewards judged that Vettel had rejoined unsafely and forced Hamilton toward the wall, issuing a 5-second penalty. Vettel crossed the finish line first, but because of the penalty, Hamilton was declared the winner. The aftermath was dramatic. Vettel was visibly furious, marching over to the Parc Fermé area and swapping the first place and second place signs in protest before leaving the podium ceremony briefly. Fans and experts debated the decision intensely. Many felt Vettel did everything he could to control the car, and that penalizing him ruined what had been a thrilling battle. To this day, people point to this race as an example of how over-regulation and controversial stewarding can rob drivers of hard hard-earned victories. 2021 Abu Dhabi. The 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will go down as one of the most debated races in Formula One history. Lewis Hamilton dominated from the start and looked set to claim a record-breaking 8th world title. Max Verstappen, however, stayed within striking distance. Then, with only a few laps remaining, a crash brought out the safety car. Race control made a highly unusual decision, allowing only certain lapped cars to unlap themselves. This put Verstappen directly behind Hamilton with just one lap remaining and fresh soft tires compared to Hamilton's worn hards. On the restart, Verstappen passed Hamilton and took the checkered flag, sealing his first world championship. Teams immediately lodged protests, commentators were left speechless, and fans around the world erupted in debate. The FIA later admitted the rules were not applied correctly, but the result was allowed to stand. Many still believe the outcome was manipulated for drama, while others accept it as a quirk of racing. Either way, that final lap remains one of the most intense and controversial moments in the sport's history.